I'm Amy Cherry. This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, here to wow ya.
We will be reopening at one point.
While parks and trails have reopened in Flagler County's unincorporated areas, they remain closed in Palm Coast. Mayor Melissa Holland says the city is working on a plan to reopen them using a phased-in approach that's responsible.
We don't have the resources to actually monitor 125 miles of connected trails, and if it's creating an additional health crisis in our city. Our parks equipment and those things that we know could spread the virus in a way that's catastrophic to our efforts thus far, and so we weigh those as well.
Holland says what's good for Flagler Beach doesn't mean it's good for Palm Coast.
Is a different conversation, but it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It means those are the conversations that are taking place within those communities. We have a different demographic. We have a population of over 90,000 residents, with a large percentage of those residents fall into that high-risk category.
She says with several assisted living facilities in the community and no vaccine for COVID-19, the Palm Coast population remains at risk without practicing severe social distancing.
But our public is getting anxious, and I get that, and people are really being challenged economically, and I get that as well.
But Holland cautioned she won't put a date on reopening, calling it an irresponsible step while combating a virus that's unpredictable.
This is an experiment that's going on all over the world.
Dr. Stephen Bickle, Flagler County's medical director, says states are walking the line between reopening economies and risking contagion.
There's no perfect solution.
But what it's going to take to reopen, Bickle says emphatically, more testing.
We need to be finding basically every symptomatic case, using it as kind of a sentinel indicator that the spread might be increasing. Also, hospitalization increases if it happens. And that's where there's a role of antibody testing to get a better idea of the past prevalence of this in the community. So it's kind of a dance that you go through between monitoring this and hoping that the public health and case containment measures will be adequate.
He says public health officials will be keeping a close eye on the COVID-19 numbers to ensure there's not a resurgence in cases once businesses start to open up.
With many people not working, many have little income, so where can they go to get help with their bills? Carrie Baird, the CEO of Flagler Care, says they can contact her organization since they're working to make it the only place one needs to go for help.
We're partnering up with a bunch of organizations, including Flagler County government, working with the Early Learning Coalition that has an initiative right now to try to get some child care centers to open back up so that they can provide child care for first responders and medical professionals that need to continue working to serve the medical needs of our community.
Baird said the organization started slow, not sure how many would take advantage of the help, but they're working with all those agencies, including the Flagler County Health Department. She said Flagler Cares wants to work with anybody who has resources to help those who need help in this challenging time. To listen to the interview, download the Flagler radio app and go to the Free for All Friday podcast. During the first 48 hours of the mayor's Feed Palm Coast initiative, they raised over $18,000, and the city is setting a goal of $30,000. Tyler Jarnigan is the communications officer for the city of Palm Coast, and he tells us how each and every one of us can help feed Palm Coast.
Our IT and finance team work together to set up a system to where you can text our phone number and donate to the Mayor's Feed Palm Coast initiative. Just text the number 386-223-1690. When you text it, make sure that you text the all one word, Feed Palm Coast.
How are the donations distributed?
Every single dollar that you donate will go towards buying food that will be distributed to residents in our community.
They'll also be accepting dry food donations at City Hall in Town Center and at Parkview Church, 5435 Belterre Parkway. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Rich Carroll.
The Flagler School Board has opted not to add gender identity to a list of protections for students. John Arking reports.
Following several months of debate and controversy, the Flagler School Board voted 4-1 Tuesday to retain its non-discrimination policy as is, without adding specific protections for transgender students. Board member Colleen Conklin was the lone dissenting vote, saying that she had come to believe the current policy is not adequate to the job of protecting transgender students.
There's multiple studies that show the rate of suicide and self-harming risk factors are the highest among LGBTQ students. We've discussed this before. So it is for that reason I ask you to reconsider and support adding gender identity to provide our students an additional layer of protection.
That stance was countered by board member Andy Dance, who said the current language is not the problem, but how the policy is implemented.
I don't think that adding gender identity to the policy is that layer of extra protection. It is in our procedures, how we as a district are unified in that message and in our protections and in our compassion for the students.
The issue first came to the board in November when a local father, Randy Bertrand, told the board that a teacher at Matanzas High School did not want to use the new male name for his son, a transgender boy transitioning from female to male. The boy later transferred to Flagler Palm Coast High School, which his father says is a more accepting environment. But the debate heated up when Charlene Cothran, a local pastor, spoke out against the proposed policy, calling Bertrand's son a confused girl and saying he was mentally ill. Those comments angered supporters of the family who stood and turned their backs to Cothran as she spoke. Flagler Board Chairwoman Janet McDonald tried to downplay the initial incident and said there was no finding that the teacher was disparaging toward the boy and that the situation had been resolved. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm John Arking.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Amy Cherry.